G'day Bomber fans. Well, the boys are done for the year. They had their final training session of the 2024 calendar year yesterday. They now get to put their legs up and relax over the Christmas break before getting right back into it early in 2025. But today it's all about our last session yesterday because this was the big one of the off-season. The boys had their work cut out for them with a big old match sim in an approximately 200-minute session. And the good news is most got through unscathed and plenty will head into 2025 full of confidence after some excellent performances. Now, real quick before I really get into this video, I wasn't at training. I was busy at work in Adelaide, a beautiful little Adelaide, sporting the splotchiest sunburn you'll ever see. And by the way, that is karma for me talking smack about Lewis Hayes. I apologise, Lewis. So this information is all stuff that I compiled from people who were there, people on Blue Sky, Josh Barnes on Herald Sun, people that I've messaged. Thank you to guys like Scooter McNeese, who's always posting, EFC Track Watcher, Charlie Dons, all these guys and more are on Blue Sky. I've probably missed out a few. It's really the best place to be getting Essendon related news this early on. So I'd be making an account if I were you. I'm also posting quite a bit over there, but none of it is as interesting as what those guys are dishing out. And also, while I have you here, stay tuned to the Don the Stat podcast because they are doing a 100-day countdown by listing the 100 best players since 1980 to play for Essendon. One a day, crazy dedication, but I may or may not be on that podcast. I may be on the podcast soon for a quick chat about someone currently on our list, so stay tuned to that. But let's get right into this. Okay, so we're going to talk about quite a few players, so we'll split this up to get the most out of it. So we'll start by talking about key defenders. So let's talk about Zach Reed, who was playing on Big Peter Wright for most of the day, and for the most part was winning the aerial battles when on him. Most I've spoken to said that Reed won the battle, and with those who didn't, saying it was a 50-50, and that's really good. That's really promising for a guy who we haven't really seen much of at all since he was drafted. He's competing well, moving well. Same with Ridley. Those two went off to Qatar after the season to sort out their soft tissue injuries, and both are moving really well and looking fit, which is just what we want, and hopefully that lasts. Lewis Hayes, he's another who's in really good nick. We're starting to see what he's capable of. He didn't set the world alight, but from all accounts, he was really solid. He was often on a mismatch too, winning aerial contests against ruckmen taller than him, which goes to show how well he reads the ball. Laverty, not much said about him really. It seems like he's going to be under some pressure for lists or game day spots. The main issue is the fact that our forwards were able to find a lot of space on both teams, black and red, so that is an early sign that our defence is possibly leaky, but also that our ball movement is looking nice. General defenders, Andy McGrath was an impressive one, it seems. Josh Barnes from the Herald Sun went out of his way to talk about McGrath's fitness, claiming that he was the one leading the way in the post-sim fitness drills. Saad El Hawley also got a mention for this. Both are looking in great shape and will use their tanks for us roaming in defence. Dylan Shield was another who's been playing a lot of defensive minutes, which allowed Martin to play a fair bit in the guts, and also Redmond, by the way. Redmond was another being trialled through the midfield a fair bit, which is really interesting. So maybe that is something that Scott has up his sleeve for 2025. Lowell has been doing well this preseason. He's another moving around the ground really nicely off halfback and on the wing. We did want to improve our fitness over the summer, so to see guys like McGrath, El Hawley, Lowell, Redmond, even Angus Clark all killing it is really good, and that's just one zone of the field. Alright, the midfield, I think we can call Nick Martin a bit of a midfielder now. He's been playing through the guts a lot, not just wing, but actual midfield. He did spend a lot of time in defence too, so that may be where he rests, but I think it's likely we see him used as an engine room operator in 2025, and it should also be noted though, we do have quite a few injuries to our midfield right now, or not injuries, but I guess players not competing in match sim. I'll talk about that later, so that may be why guys like Redmond and Martin are being pushed high up the ground. You had Draper and Goldstein and Bryan all rucking and putting their case forward for that number one spot. I think the way it's shaping up, it will be Draper playing half ruck, half forward, and Bryan doing the majority of the stoppage work. Draper, by the way, was working super hard to lose his opponents when inside 50. He ended up kicking a few goals because of this, so we're seeing that forward craft come into effect, and that could be really handy. Elijah Sardas, of the midfielders, this is the big one from yesterday. There are a few saying that, they're saying breakout year potential here. So he was apparently really lively, really energetic, and genuinely good by both foot and hand. So that is a massive tick if he can carry that through to 2025. He was one of the better performers, it seems, so that is really good to hear. Alright, the forward line, there's a fair bit to talk about here. You got Peter Wright, who was on Zach Reed, and he struggled to really get going, but he did take some nice grabs throughout the day. Nate Caddy was another standout. Everyone is super pleased with his training load so far. The way he's moving around the ground is really promising. In fact, he actually played through the midfield a bit in this match sim, so that is really interesting. He's not only everywhere as a high roaming forward, taking clunks, being a target, but he used that versatility to inject himself into the midfield. Keep in mind, he did play some junior midfield minutes, so it's not entirely new to him, but it's very early into his career to be doing stuff like that. But the standout from the key forwards was Carl Langford. He went on an absolute tear. No one seems to know how many goals he kicked. Everyone is saying different amounts. Everyone lost count. He apparently kicked 3 in a row and either 5 or 6 for the day. He was just awesome, and I think this can tie in with Stringer leaving maybe. Langford could have so much freedom inside 50 now, with Caddy roaming higher up the field, Draper too. It's a new look forward line, and right now the only question mark is Peter Wright. We'll see how that goes. I'm still a believer in him. It's very early still, but most who went out to training are more keen on the other forwards. Alright, ground level, Jade Gresham and Alan Davey were really lively. The latter is quietly putting together a really good or off-season. The vibe with Perkins seems to be a little bit mixed. He has done heaps to slim down and improve his fitness this pre-season, but there are still some not sure as to where he is right now. Still very early. It's almost too early to be talking about players like this, but just a little watch on Perkins, I guess. I've heard great things and not so great things mixed together this preseason. Isaac Kako, we're starting to see him really get going. He didn't star, but he had some great moments, and also, most pleasingly, this is what you love to hear, some great pressure-based moments. So that is really promising, because if you saw my Kako profile video, you would know that his pressure is arguably his biggest weakness as a player. So it's looking like he's trying to improve that. Just on a couple of other draftees, it seems like Reece Unwin and Archer Day-Wicks are the ones catching eyes the most of the lot. Day-Wicks is doing it in patches, which I expected, but he's showing his talent. It's still very promising. And Reece Unwin, a few had high praise for him and what he did yesterday, so that's really good. He's a player the club were very keen to bring in, by the way. So to see him playing well is good to see. Jerine is getting pulled in and out of match sim, which I think is probably to do with his fitness levels. He was one lagging behind a bit in the 2K time trial, so I think the club is easing him to that AFL tank a bit. Don't expect him to see him play early. Same with Angus, that's his name, Angus Clark. I'm a huge fan of Clark, so are others, but he does really lack muscle. So those two will take time. It's looking like of the draftees, it is Kako, Unwin, and Day-Wicks that we could see play next year, and Johnson when he heals, but I'll talk about that in a bit too. So yeah, to sum it up, the team is looking good. Everyone's in, or most people are in good shape. There's some really good fitness levels to like, a lot of slimmed down players. The team is moving the ball really nicely. There's been a big emphasis on doing things quickly and not dilly-dallying. Defensively, there were some blunders, and there are some early standouts like Langford, Sartas, and Caddy. Those are the 3 names that I'm getting the most out from from those I've spoken to. If I've missed any players, it may be because they were just kind of cruising along and didn't really get a mention in any conversation or any bits and bobs I saw online. And if you guys saw anything you think I've missed from yesterday, let it be known down in the comments. This is as much a place for you guys to chat as it is for me. So yeah, the boys are fit. We're trialling new positions, Shield in defence, Martin, Redmond, and Caddy in the guts, some others as well. But let's get on to some injury news before saying goodbye. Alright, so there are a few little niggles here and there. Obviously, Jai Caldwell is off to the side with that hip rehab. I've seen some say February is the return date to full training, which I'm not 100% sure on, but if that is the case, it puts him on the back foot a bit for that early start to the year. Dersma has got a little hamstring complaint from the last weekend and is doing laps instead of being involved in main training. Guelphy is the same. Ben Mackay and Guelphy are in a similar boat right now. They're off to the side, not really doing much at all. Zach Johnson has that shoulder rehab, so he wasn't involved. Jai Menzies also has he's had shoulder surgery, so he's been sporting the fluoro cap for the entire preseason pretty much. Parrish, Setterfield, and Cox are others who were on the bike at stages but have been doing a bit elsewhere. I think Brian limped off at one stage but is fine. So really the expectation is that most of these guys are in full training in 2025. Caldwell definitely won't be, I don't think. Mackay and Guelphy and Dersma might be a bit off as well. We'll see. I'll update you with any news I hear. But yeah, that is that. A massive thank you to everyone I've spoken to and to everyone who delivered news online from the session and this entire preseason. Without highlighting any individuals, you all did awesome work and made this video and other videos possible, so thank you heaps, guys. But that is that last training update of 2024. Cheers for watching, everybody. Like, subscribe, and go Bombers.